Today we'll be having a very unusual discussion, and it relates to tech definitely. But so a quick backstory. Young techies these days have found themselves accepting or being more open with their love for comics, sci-fi, etc. It might be a new trend. It might not be one. It might not be new. It might have been in existence for a very long time. We'll talk about that. And then we'll, of course, look at perhaps the things that interest people who call themselves techies. So if you're a techie, for instance, and you don't perhaps watch some kinds of shows, or you don't perhaps read some kinds of comic books, does that really make you a techie? And for some people who are not necessarily in the tech space, especially in Nigeria, but have a wealth of knowledge with regards to how tech works and how they are also able to manipulate it to work for them in their own areas of specialization. We'll look at how they also are able to use some of some tech products and how they are also able to accept some of the things that tech guys naturally perform very well with. So today on the show, I have Victor Sanchez Aghahowa. He is a TV showrunner. He's a writer. He's also a major goofball.
Oh, once a geek man.
Once a geek man. Oh,
yes,
amazing.
This is true.
And he's he's a geek. I think I could call you that.
Yes, I'm a geek.
You're a geek. You're not a nerd.
I'm a geek.
We'll come to the difference between a geek and a nerd in a bit. I also have on my right hand side Eniola, Tito Abumere. He is a YouTuber, a photographer, and a geek as well.
And I want to know whether I'm a geek or a nerd. I can't wait till we get to that.
Okay, so Victor, just help us out with that differentiation. What exactly is the difference between a geek and a nerd?
Okay, this is not the textbook definition.
Right.
So this is like really personal.
No, it's not personal. This is colloquially understood.
Okay.
But I don't know if anybody's written it down. I'll have to check dictionary.com when I'm done here. But geek, nerd, dork, dweeb, not the same thing.
Okay.
The only people who
I know
use
dork
that,
is a bit,
yes,
you know.
the only people who use that are bullies who can use those interchangeably. A geek is someone who's sort of up on pop culture, what you would call pop culture, or like comic books, and people who process information through pop culture.
Okay.
So
that's who a geek is.
A geek primarily is somebody who is into like fandom of things, like huge fans of things. You can be a musical theater geek, you can be a potted plant geek, you can be a knitting geek.
Okay.
You can touch to
literature.
Yes.
Right. So you can be a geek in any.
Doesn't mean that you know how to change a motherboard on a laptop.
Right. So who's a nerd in that case?
A nerd is more someone who's into like science. Like mathematics, science. So for instance, a lot of geeks get mistaken for nerds. So because I love Star Trek, I can fix your laptop.
But there's an underlying
Not
notion that
right?
geeks and maybe nerds are socially awkward people, especially when you look at where they are coming from. So as a young boy, as young boys, perhaps because of your interest in some things, people didn't necessarily see you as very socially active. Or
no, it's not their fault. I'm
outgoing,
socially awkward.
See, is that the same case for you?
I see how people would make that assumption that that nerds and geeks are withdrawn, reclusive, introverts, and all that. I think in that regard, there's no real separation. Yeah. But I mean, it's changing from when we were kids. But now you can be a geek.
Being a geek is cool now.
It's cool.
It is cool.
You don't get beaten up for it now.
Yeah.
I was bullied. So
technology has advanced, I think, to a level where people who are seen as people who just dig their heads in their computers to maybe write codes and whatnot are now cool kids because of things like applications that they are able to
because geeks
develop.
Are billionaires now and they own everything.
Mark Zuckerberg, poster boy.
And the geek shall inherit the earth.
Amen
That's
to
a
that.
good one. Let's now come back to the conversation. Now, for a good number of geeks out there who are very interested in, let's say, for instance, let's call them nerds, all right? Let's leave out the geeks. Let's call them nerds. You are very interested in computing. You love to get... you love the technicality of things like smartphones and technology. Where does the interest for science fiction, for instance, which is largely based on futuristic technology, space, etc., where does the interest in stuff like that come in for someone who also just loves to play with computers and finds themselves fascinated by, stuff like that?
And one of the things is the assumption that if you are not directly in the arts, you don't draw, paint. or write creatively, you are not creative, which is ridiculous. But there is that assumption. So you just assume that because the guy likes computers, why does he like comic books? But everybody owns a smartphone. I dare you to find one person who can explain how a semiconductor works. Do you understand what I mean? Like, a smartphone is technically magic. There is no difference between a smartphone and Thor's hammer. But, you know, if you put it like that,
size?
it'll be like, the Motorola walkabout. Or sorry, you can talk about
size
that
and weight.
But
Smartphones are, you know,
but you get what I mean?
lighter
Like,
these days.
Essentially, I mean, there was a time, now everybody knows Thor's hammer from the movies, but there was a time in the comic books, Thor's hammer was a king. But that's another story. But you get what I'm saying? Like, it's essentially magic, but because everybody has one and it's widely accepted, we don't question it. So when somebody was programming in the 80s or 70s, this person was basically like, you gave him a Dungeon and Dragon rule book. Like a book of C++ was basically a book of spells. I can put this in and I can make this thing do whatever. It's the same thing. But because you don't see the person as creative, you just say, person is doing work, he's doing maths. You know, I think he's doing mathematics. Because I suck at math. To me, anybody who can do long division is Gandalf's twin. Because I can't. But that's what I think. So, but it's people not seeing that stuff that you normally consider as techie or computing or basic mathematical, basic science is actually majorly creative work.
So you've talked about comic books, and I see that a lot of tech guys, writers, app developers that I follow on Twitter, for instance, once anyone talks about perhaps Star Wars, for instance, or maybe the Avengers, or a book somewhere, there's just this, it stirs something, and then there's that conversation that's going. Is it possible from your point of view that someone who doesn't necessarily find an interest in any of these things would fit into that community?
It is because like Victor said when we were talking earlier, it's now mainstream. Like things like the Avengers, like Star Wars, they've reached a wider audience now. But initially, when these things started, especially with comics and things like the Fantastic Four, Avengers, all those Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I didn't know about Guardians of the Galaxy until the movies came out. But I'm sure it had a serious following, back when it first.
It was a small cult. It was a small cult.
Yeah. So, and why it's appealing, first of all, to the nerds or the geeks, is that I think because these people, we spend so much time, in front of our computers, working and thinking, and there's a lot of imagination and creativity that happens in all these sci-fi movies and books and whatnot that just draw on innovation and the limitless possibilities. We're only limited by our minds anyway.
Indeed.
So these movies, they explore themes like time travel, like living on another, life on another planet. These are things that nerds and geeks think about a lot.
Indeed.
And when we were able to see it on screen, we're like, this thing, it could actually happen. It's actually possible with the right kind of investment or more minds coming towards it. And that's what we're seeing now. There are a lot of things you see in movies, or that we saw in movies back in the days, that we're seeing in real life now. So
for someone who is not exactly in the tech community, you are largely a filmmaker and a TV showrunner, essentially, but you are a nerd.
Yeah, I'm a geek.
You're a geek, so you're a geek, not a nerd. But you do have a lot of knowledge, on computers and all of that.
I had to.
How are you able to use your knowledge of that in your show running?
Okay, here's the thing.
All of that.
All right, good question. I love the way you framed it. Because you did the same thing I was talking about, where it's like there's a divide. There is none. Because it's all storytelling.
Okay.
Films, comic books, computer programs, storytelling. There's a reason code is called language, programming language. It's all storytelling.
That. Good point.
Like, it's all storytelling. There's a reason why, of all the things you can do with computers, the thing that drains the most power and makes the most money now is gaming. Way over productivity. Because human beings are hardwired for storytelling. Everything you know was told to you. Even if you experienced it, you took your experience and you told someone else. We are hardwired for storytelling. All our rules, the Constitution, your religions, the Bible, the Quran, whatever you follow, it's a collection of stories. That's all it is. Now, let's now get to the story of film and television in Nigeria. Some of my closest friends and closest collaborators got into the business when we were still rolling film. I humanly don't have the patience for film.
Okay.
Like, I would never have been a filmmaker if it was still film.
Really?
Never.
You're already millennial before
I'm
you
kind
were
of
millennial.
insane. No, like, I maybe have high ADHD, maybe. I don't know. But I chose TV over film because of the immediacy of television.
Okay.
Television is insane. Your show's on the air already, you gotta get this episode. It's insanity. Film, you can take 3 years to mold a film. In my little brain, ain't nobody got time for that. So here's my point. When we had to start making product, and I had to find a way in Nigeria, for instance, to up the game to like international standards and blah, 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 then came tech into filmmaking, DSLRs, and it was a level playing field. But there were no like film schools or whatever that specialized in digital filmmaking, like say in '99. So what it was everybody had to go on, I keep saying it, everything I learned about filmmaking, I learned on YouTube. I learned on the internet.
I was going there because you are a YouTuber.
Because I learned on the internet. And this was like before YouTube. Like I remember the internet before there was YouTube. God, I'm old. But you know what I mean? Like, so it was, I used to take Disqus to the cyber cafe and fill them with articles and stuff I just downloaded. Because there's so much information, there still is, like right now there's so much information out there. But as a showrunner, basically to make the show, you need an incredible amount of tech. There is no way you could be a showrunner without tech. Because you're basically bouncing from the writer's room to post-production, to sets, to prepping the next block. To make it sound really weird, I only found out, laugh at me, I'm old. I only found out about how to use Google Docs like a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And let me tell you a fun thing. No, let me tell you why. Because
Isn't laughing at
I'm
you.
in an industry where what we do is right?
Yeah.
Which means your documents are like your trade secrets. So the idea of using something where we share stuff, anybody can just jump on it, what? But then, because we viewed it like that, we were viewing it as the enemy. And this is where tech comes into these things. And then we realized, wait a minute, I didn't have to assemble the entire writing team in one location. We could all be working off one Google Doc. Documents. And here, WhatsApp has video now, it's not just Skype. We can do WhatsApp, we can do... Hey, which means, like for instance, my head writer right now resides in Germany.
Wow.
I think my story editor lives in New York.
Wow.
But you're still
There
able
was a
to
time
at
my
least
sound
gather
guy, my
everything
music
you
guy,
want from
my
them.
sound guy was in South Africa. The show was moving on smoothly. That sort of thing. So yeah, you cannot overemphasize the role of tech. I feel if the tech hadn't got to where it is, there would be no industry. And as long as it's still storytelling, it will all tie together. Star Wars is more about family dynamics and succession.
And government.
And government, the original
Interesting.
trilogy, than it is about spaceships. Star Trek is more about the role of Eniola, the role about America in policing the world than it was about Starfleet. Lord of the Rings is more of a religious analogy than it is about Mordor. Doctor Who is more about realizing that you're the one. It's like, Doctor Who's one of the funniest things, because I'm a hardcore Whovian, and it's one of the funniest things ever, because you wait for a guy in a blue box to come save you. Like, it makes no sense. But
So how close are these things to reality?
they are reality. The question is just, they're parables. That's basically all they are. They are parables. If you came to me and said you wanted to explain to me all the forms of government, I will fall asleep halfway through. That's my personality type, right? But if you came to me and said, oh yeah, let me tell you a story about this guy and this girl who were going through it. And then basically you go through Star Wars and you basically watch how the Republic became, was the Republic became the Empire, right?
Yes.
The Republic became the Empire. And you're basically watching how democracy becomes,
Like
Military
dictatorship.
rule.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? It's authoritarian government. And kids are learning about this, and you might say, no, you're always playing with these toys. You don't, kids are understanding government. If I literally walked up to lined up 20 Nigerian youth right now and asked them what's the difference between communism and socialism, I'm not sure they know. It should be viewed more like a filter by which people discuss grander ideas in a way that is non-threatening. If I came and sat down,
more simplified.
Yes, if I came here and I questioned your religion and you questioned mine, so need to be sides and fights. But if we are discussing Star Wars, you understand? And I think Han Solo is cooler than Lando Calrissian, then it's not so much of a big deal. You buy that action figure, I buy this action figure, it's all good. You know what I mean? So, and then when it comes to like tech, things like Star Trek, the cell phone was on Star Trek before there was a cell phone. The iPad was on Star Trek before there was an iPad. A lot of the designers, Jonathan Ive, a lot of guys have said they have looked at things like the bridge in Star Trek. The original Captain Kirk's chair is a Volkswagen seat turned upside down.
Okay.
It's basically taking
I
what
didn't know
already
that.
exists. It's basically taking what exists and saying in 20 years, where will we be? And sometimes they're spot on. Sometimes we are way ahead. Still don't have them flying cars. Sometimes we are
But we are
way
about to have
behind.
self-driving cars.
But
so
sometimes-
we already have
Yeah.
Tesla.
But sometimes
so
we are way behind on some things. There's some things you watch now, these old sci-fi movies, and you're just like, oh, that's just cool. You thought we'd still be really
The Jetsons, you know.
You know?
Skype, when they'd have the video call.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was like in the 60s or 70s.
Way
unimaginable back then. I mean, they did put it in a cartoon, but Skype became Skype in 2003.
Yes, Donald
You
Trump
know?
was president on The Simpsons, and they thought it was impossible.
There you go.
But
You know?
it is
And
what it is,
happened,
Right.
you
and
know?
it happened. So
it did happen. Let's come now to the Nigerian example, and this is where perhaps we'll wrap things up. I was reading an article the other day about some guy who went into coding because he compared his creation to consumption ratio and figured out that he was consuming more than he was creating. Taking a cue from what we have talked about, how can perhaps the stories that we tell, how can they improve our tech innovations in Nigeria?
okay, here's the thing.
Filmmaker
from
among
a storytelling point of view. One of the biggest problems I have with a lot of scripts that I see is that they're not about anything. There has to be a point to telling a story.
Okay.
All stories had a point. If I told you a story where I was late to work, what I was telling you the story was so that you would sympathize with me or not penalize me for being late. But if I told you a story that, I went to the junction, I saw a bus, I entered it, I came here. And so. And when you start telling stories because, there's this cool software I want to try out, or there's this, because sometimes the tech gets in the way of storytelling, I'll be really honest. People do stuff because it's cool. Or make cool visual effect. That's why you have 20 films that end with the lights going in the sky with the come on, but anyway. But you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it gets in the way of the storytelling. And storytelling is not about visual effects. It's not about collecting people's money. It's not about, you can use it to do that, but that's not what it's about. So if you're talking about like the Nigerian space, we need storytelling, in my personal opinion, we need storytelling more than any other country in the world. Because the stories that are being told about us are not half as damaging as the stories we tell ourselves about us.
Okay.
What we need to do is change our story. If we keep telling, and I didn't understand this until I had kids, if we keep telling our kids, Nigeria is terrible, then Nigeria is not your Nigeria. By the time they will be old enough to process that information,
They'll start thinking just like you.
then Nigeria won't be yours. It will not be your Nigeria. You'll be on your way out. It'll be a Nigeria you don't even understand. The same way our folks are like, I don't understand what's happening in Nigeria now. Back then, we could do this, we could do that.
So we just kind of pass it down.
We're sort of like, but if you pass the mentality down, which in reality, you are not passing the reality down, you're passing the mentality, which they then use to create that reality. So if we don't change our story, so for instance, we do a lot of copy and paste. Hey, writer, my hand actually went control copy.
Control C,
We
Control
do
V.
a lot of we do a lot of copy and paste where we take an American ideal or a Western ideal, sometimes an Asian ideal, and try to just drop it here and say it will work. It won't, because we're a completely different ecosystem. But copying and pasting goes beyond fashion trends or clothes or how we do our hair. It's even the way we treat tech. There was a show I was working on where we killed like 4 Blackmagic cameras in the first month.
Huh?
Because those cameras were not built for the heat. It was like October 2014 was the worst heat wave in years.
Wow.
And those cameras were not
They didn't
built
think
to
about
take that
our
kind of
heat
beating.
here.
So you bought the cameras and it was awesome, and because you buy many, they give you all the extra gear, and like dazed, and then they died on us because they just were not built for the tropics. And you don't think of that in the beginning until you start saying, oh wait, hold on. So are you saying there's a market for tropic-ready cameras? You know what I mean? Speaking from my field, but so also from the storytelling point of view, stay away from cool. Let's be real and try to say something about where we are now, where we should be in 20 years. So if you are trying to make a sci-fi film about Nigeria, don't make a flying car.
Why not? People want to.
Because that has
drive flying
nothing
cars.
to do with anything. In Nigeria, in which the police force has laptops in their cars and can run your tags, that's
Not
Nigeria's version
believable.
of science fiction. It's not unbelievable. It is what we need. We need to find the science to make that happen. We need the tech guys who are going to make these things actually happen, because the writers, 9 times out of 10, they understand the basics of how it works, so they can write about it. But how is that going to come?
What are your thoughts, Tito?
On tech and and
Yes,
sci-fi and
telling stories and
to
tech
develop
innovation and stuff
Nigeria.
like that.
The Nigerian market is very, very, very interesting. Not as it's informed, but not as advanced or proactive as one would like it to be. We see, The Social Network, that movie about, Mark Zuckerberg, that's probably one of my biggest movies. Whenever I'm clearing my laptop for space and deleting movies, that's the only movie that stays. Yeah, that's the only one that stays, because there's so much in that movie about, just building a business and working, doing business with friends, so many things. And I take that out and I apply it to my life daily. I don't think there are enough things that young Nigerians or old Nigerians see in the numerous, movies we watch and TV shows we watch that we consciously apply towards development or towards even making our lives better. We just consume it for entertainment's sake. So what we need, and I'm a big advocate of this, is that somebody, ideally the government, needs to propagate proactivity and thinking a certain way and applying yourself and not just being trivial.
But from a consumer's point of view, especially because you have Star Wars you have the Star Wars shirt on, what's the possibility that you will invest in some way in any of these things should they be done in Nigeria? So we talked about a flying car movie versus
any more form of realistic tech.
Yeah, so policeman in a car with laptop and all of that. What's the possibility that perhaps if these stories are told, you as a tech person will believe that, okay, yes, this is a Nigerian thing. Let me invest my time, let me invest my money in this, as opposed to going for a Star Wars or an Iron Man story.
Oh, I see.
Or a Marvel comic book as opposed to an Mono Republic book.
Okay, well, I think that now boils down to people like Victor improving or doing more. I don't know, more intellectual things that can stimulate or just push people towards doing things the way Star Wars or Back to the Future or Minority Report stimulated people towards thinking, towards providing solutions. But I think again it comes back to the consumer, to the viewer. Are they thinking? The Nigerian viewer, when you watch Minority Report and you see Tom Cruise doing that on the screen with a gesture-based user interface, the American or the foreigner from the first world would see that and think, smartphones, devices, UI, user interface. The African will not think along those lines. So as much as I want to say, Victor can do an amazing movie about Nigeria 2050 where things are just crazy. It's fiction, it's an idea, but how many African viewers are going to watch that and be like, let me build off that I just saw in that movie. So yeah, I think we need to work on the consumers' end, and the viewers' end as well. Both
and
need
the creators.
Work. And the creators, but I think the consumers as well, the viewers, we need to be more proactive in our. That's my way of thinking on the matter.
All right then. That's all we have time for. This has been a very long conversation. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate your time. I was thinking it was going to be some long talk about how Star Wars is amazing, etc., etc.
Those are facts. We don't need to discuss that. Those are facts.
We do want to just bore
Those are facts.
Yeah.
Dr. Who
will not elaborate on that. Not today.
I'll carry to Star Wars in December.
I don't understand it. Like, why? And it's a
I
lot
will make you cliff notes. Do you want
there's just
audio
a lot.
version?
I can't even keep up. There's a lot that has happened. I mean, all that history.
I
I'm
can
not
break
interested.
it down for you in 13 minutes or less.
You'll be good.
I'm dead serious.
So, guys, we have talked about flying cars. We have talked about self-driving cars. We've talked about sci-fi. We've talked about movies, comic books, etc., etc. All of these things appeal to the techie in this age. So if perhaps it's something that you want to just build off on, you want to build a product from it, amazing, go ahead and do it. But do not forget the Nigerian market, which is very, very dynamic, as Tito has, of course, pointed out. And of course, from the creator's point of view, the guys who are writing these stories, we have to be more intentional about writing these stories to ensure that our developers can take these stories and make products out of them. Let's see how sci-fi and writing for sci-fi can improve our tech ecosystem in Nigeria. And so we can have great fandoms as well, have people love our homegrown stuff. So from the content and of course the tech innovation point of view. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on TechCity Disqus today. Let me know your most favorite sci-fi movies are in the comment section. I don't have any, so
We need to fix that. We need to
I'm
do
fine.
something.
I'm
We need to do
doing
something
just
about
fine.
that. We
I'm
need to
doing
do something
just
about
fine. I'm really okay. But let me know what your favorites are in the comment section below. If you know any guys who are already doing these things that I probably don't know about, please leave their names or whatever in the comment section. Let's find these guys out and tell their stories right here on TechCity. See what exactly they're doing and how we can project the Nigerian story even more. I'm Bella Rozokoji. I've had Tito Abumere on the show, YouTuber and photographer, and I've had Victor Sanchez Aghahowa, who is also a showrunner and a writer on TechCity Disqus. So see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.